How you doing, folks? Well, it's another day in the garage, and I'm about to get stuck back into this project of putting the TDI engine into the camper van. Now, there's a lot to be done still, even though the old engine is out and the new engine and gearbox are now together and more or less ready to go in. We still have a lot of prep work to do to actually get both the van ready to accept the engine and have the engine ready to just drop in and with the minimum of fuss just hook it up. So basically what we want to do today is we want to get the intercooler sorted out, pipe work for that, get the inlet ducting sorted, some wiring, and might have a look at the gearshift linkage. But the first thing I want to do is I want to tackle that CV joint flange, because it's hanging over me and it's one of those jobs I'm just procrastinating on, but I need to do it, so we may as well. At this point in time, myself and my wife had a talk last night about the plan for the camper van, basically. Obviously we were planning on going away in it this summer over to France and down into Spain. Because of COVID-19, I don't think that's going to be happening, but we kind of made a list last night of things we would like to do, both including the camper van and otherwise, but you know, going down to West Cork, you know, which is kind of, it's a good couple of 100 miles away from here, and it's a beautiful part of the world down there. Spend a few days there travelling around, and a few other things. Just the three of us, myself, my wife and the young lad. So we want to have the van right for that, and yeah, so we still have all to play for. I mean, it's still, like, the project is still moving ahead. So here on the side of the engine is, well, the gearbox is the intercooler, okay? So I actually have fitted the bracketry for that. You can see there now, the kit I bought, it came with a scoop, which allows us to take fresh air up in through the intercooler. And what we need to do is, we need to plumb the turbo, the air from the compressed air from the turbo through the intercooler to cool it, and then to bring it into the inlet. The idea behind an intercooler basically is the cooler air has more oxygen density, and the more oxygen you have, the more fuel you can burn. So if you heat the air, you lose that density. So that's why we cool it down. When you compress the air with the turbo, the compressing air causes it to heat up. So you cool it back down again with the intercooler, and you gain some of that density back. So yeah, that's the point of an intercooler anyway. Yeah, so what we need to do is, we have this elbow fitting here on the inlet, and we've got this elbow fitting coming off the intercooler, and there's a piece I need to join those two, which will have the takeoff for the inlet air temperature and the mass air pressure sensor. The mass air pressure sensor is actually in the ECU box itself, but there's a takeoff on the pipe for that, like a little hose goes onto it, and then we need to bring this down here. But you see the way the turbo is kind of sitting. I may re-index that, just turn the compressor housing a little bit, just to kind of line that up a little bit better, because I'm not really happy with the way it's sitting at the moment, obviously. So yeah, let's get that done. Okay, so one of the things that actually happened while I was working on the gearbox is I stupidly fitted this mechanism, this is part of the gear shift mechanism, and the rod that went from here to here got broken when I was moving the gearbox around. It was quite flimsy. It was like there was a part of the rod that was supposed to break away. I can't understand why. It was kind of like it was a thinner piece, and I put the gearbox over on its side, and it didn't take a huge amount to break it now, to be fair. But anyway, what I had to do was try to remove the old rod, which was easier said than done, and take out the drill them out basically there, and I've tapped the hole here and here, and what I did was I made up a new rod. So welding is not very pretty, but that should do the trick. It's threaded on both ends, and obviously I made a measurement between here and here, so it's 100 millimeters exactly. So yeah, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fit that threaded piece, and I'm going to put 2 lock nuts on it, and that should hold it all in place. So yeah, look, I mean, I got out of it. I got away lightly, in fairness, in the end. Now yeah, I mean, I imagine what I'll have to do is take this off and thread it on separately, and then get the length right before I put it back on, all that kind of stuff. But we can do that. In the meantime as well too, I also got this piece done on the intercooler. So you can see here, this pipe is now continuously over to the intercooler. I haven't got any clamps on it yet. There's no point in putting them on until I'm 100% happy with everything. But that's where the inlet air temperature probe is going to go, just in there, and then that's the takeoff for the mass air pressure sensor. So there will be a new piece of pipe put on there, and it'll run over to the ECU, and the ECU will be somewhere over here, kind of thing, on the inside of the bulkhead of the van. As well as that, what I've also done is I had a look at the air filter situation, and I will show you that now. I'm actually going to use the cone filter that I got. And the simple reason is the duct sizes are right, and it's also a nice looking piece of gear. Now what I need to do is I need to make up a bracket. I'm starting to sound like Project Binky here. I need to make up a bracket that will hold those two little eyes onto basically something I can bolt this onto inside the van. And then there'll be a piece of ducting going off from there down to the turbo. So yeah, that's pretty satisfactory. And may as well show you this while we're here as well too. This is the cable gear shift mechanism. Now this is a sexy bit of kit. They're the two cables, right? So they'll run from the underneath the cab floor up to this. It's the pedestal. And the pedestal basically, it's got a UJ with two ball joints on it, okay? And what happens is one cable goes onto the side, so you get your left to right movement there, and one goes onto the bottom, so you get your up and down movement there. And it's just a UJ, and it's got this pedestal. I probably will paint it, but for the moment, it's kind of a pretty cool looking bit of kit. I probably would at some stage or another like to actually cover it in fabric or something like that, and get it in keeping with the rest of the van inside. Make it look more factory. I mean, it's not exactly a rally car, so you know, I mean, what's the point in having something that looks like it's straight from a rally car in it? It just look out of place. But we can figure that out at a later stage. Let's worry more about the function first of all, and then we can worry about the form later. So yeah, I have also got another job I did as well too, was take care of the clutch actuator. Now, these are the type of things that are kind of tricky insofar as you just don't think about them, but you do have to. Basically, the clutch actuator will be up in there, and the pipe is completely different on it. So what I did was I got a length of brake pipe and a ferrule for the end of the piece of pipe that was on the end of the clutch actuator that came with this gearbox, and I was able to put a flare on the end of that pipe, join the two pipes, and then that will link in with the existing hydraulic system in the van for the clutch. Fortunately enough, the van already had a hydraulic clutch, so that's going to work out fine. So yeah, it's, as I said, it's lots of little fiddly bits and pieces like that, you know. But anyway, let's get that linkage set up. One of the things I'm finding, folks, with this project is that these are the type of things that really take time. You know, you can get massive big jobs done and make a lot of visible progress, and you know, that's one day's work done and then you're delighted. Like putting the engine onto the gearbox, for example, was a big, like, that was visible progress. But then you can end up faffing around with this type of thing for ages as well too. Now this is fine now, I'm happy with this actually. But it took a bit of adjustment as well too, you know, because obviously that rod has to be the right length. Because when you pull this cable here, there's a cable comes through here onto a ball there, okay? And what happens basically is, let me see if I can get a good angle for you there to see. Hang on. Tell you what, I'll just hold it here like this. When you pull the cable that comes through here, that brings the shifter in and out like that, okay? Now there's another ball end up here, okay? And then that's the one that lifts it up and down. So when you pull that, it actually is twisting the bar down there, twisting the shift rod, should I say. So that's neutral now, right? No, it's not. that's neutral, okay, and there's a limited amount of movement you have there, okay. So if you want to get into fifth in reverse, you push it up like that, and then you pull the other cable, and it goes in like that. So that's fifth, and that's reverse. So yeah, basically, as I said, if that rod wasn't the right length, you wouldn't be able to get into fifth or reverse, which is what was happening when I actually fitted it first. So I just lengthened this rod a little bit so that it was able to go up into that position there, and will still go down nicely into that position there as well too, to get you your first and second gear. So yeah, it's I'm happy enough with it now anyway. As I said, it's not pretty, but it's effective and it works. So now we can put our that's our cable shift mechanism done on the gearbox. I also took the material off these the head to them bolts there as well too. You know, again, fiddly little jobs, not much visible progress, but it means now I can fit the CV joint when the engine goes into the van. Now what I'm going to do, and this is the other thing, the engine doesn't sit exactly in the same position in the van as it would have done originally. It actually sits, what is it, 40 millimeters lower and 10 millimeters further forward. Now the way we do this is we have a look over here. And see these plates down here and the one over the other side. They are going to be cut off, okay? And when I cut them off, I'm going to be welding them in 10 millimeters further forward, and I also have a an adapter to move them to move those holes further down as well too. So yeah, without further ado, out with the grinder and we'll remove them. Okay, so I am now looking at the wiring in the engine bay and generally everything else as well too. That's that heap of shit Civic going by. Your man goes by at about 40 miles an hour most days and he's a moron. Anyway, the wiring in the engine bay. This is the existing wiring junction box for the old engine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and fit a couple more relays into this box. I need to find out what relay 53 and relay 60 actually do. That's the timer relay for the glow plugs, as far as I'm aware, and 53 I'm not sure, so I'm going to check that out, because we may be able to reuse that or maybe use the socket for relay 109, which has to go in here. The wiring that comes out is basically coming out from underneath here, so it comes out here, goes up around there, along there, and that's where most of it ends up. So I have it all labelled up, so fuel cut off, stuff like that, you know. So we can start having a look at that now. Fuel cut off solenoid, for example, there is one on the new engine, but it's integrated into the relay circuitry. So we need to it's integrated into the ECU circuitry is what I meant to say. So we need to have a look at how our new wiring corresponds with the old wiring and basically make it as tidy as possible. I am thinking of putting the ECU over there, just on the left. I will make a little platform type thing for it, and some sort of I'll find out a way of shielding it from the weather. Should be safe enough there then. As I said, if I can fit more relays in there, well and good. But yeah, let's lay out the new wiring harness. You know what, folks, this is a job for another day. I think I'm going to call it a this. I've actually accomplished quite a lot today. You wouldn't think it, but what I have gotten done is I've got the engine mounts ready, I've got the CV joints ready, I've got basically everything ready, so I could actually bolt the engine in now if I was that way inclined. But I'm not going to, because the engine bay isn't ready for it. There's still some stuff that needs to be sorted out, as I say, with the engine bay. You can see the engine cradle bars have been removed on either side. I actually took them out to do the welding or the grinding on them, and then I have to re-weld the engine mount brackets onto them again. But what I will do is I'll bolt the engine mount brackets onto the engine mounts, and then put the cradle bars in, and then offer it all up, and then weld the cradle bar, the engine mount brackets onto the cradle bars when the engine's in the correct position. At least that way then I know I will have everything lined up properly. That's the old air filter there from the 1.6JX. I'm not going to use it. The new air filter will go in there, and I'll make a bracket for that as well too. So yeah, look, thanks for watching folks, and we'll pick this up again in a future video.